Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne and I'm a Chinese metaphysics master in Hong Kong. Today we're going to talk about the 10 gods and the locations or the places that they can represent. Most of us are familiar with the sort of activities, the body parts, the people the 10 gods represent, but they also represent or are associated with certain locations or certain places. And this is important to know because this can tell us where we need to be to, for example, make more money, or where we need to be more in flow and in sync with our Bazi chart. It can also tell us where we can attract most helpful people into our lives. And so this is actually quite useful. Sometimes it's not that practical to specifically conduct an activity that is related to a 10 god, to one of the 10 gods. But positioning yourself or being in one of the locations where we can find this help is also very, very useful. And this is where this comes in. Now, it also helps to know the locations when it comes to analyzing a clash, for example, in a chart, because, the location can tell us then where this clash is likely going to happen or where it's going to be initiated. So it's not just about who is involved in a particular clash or a harm or destruction or a punishment, but also where this is likely to happen or in which sort of vicinity or in which sort of environment this might occur. So this is actually quite helpful to know when you do an analysis. So first things first, you need to plot your Bazi chart as always. And then you can look at either sort of like the month pillar when it comes to career, for example, or obviously when it comes to your network, you look at the year pillar. When it comes to your personal life, it's the day pillar. And when it comes to your ambitions or your children, your creative output, then we look at the hour pillar. Now, let's just assume we're looking at this from a career perspective or a wealth perspective, right? So then obviously we are looking at the month pillar. Now here, the month pillar, we take note of the 10 god in the heavenly stem, and then also we take note of the 10 god in the hidden stem, the main Qi. Yeah, we're not interested in the sub Qi. So these two of the 10 gods tell us where we could make the most money or which environment we need to expose ourselves to more in order to thrive in our careers. It doesn't mean that you have to exclude all other environments, but these are the environments that somehow put us better in flow with our career and our wealth pursuits. Yeah. So that's one way of looking at this. Now, you can also then analyze, for example, a clash, harm, punishment, or whatever. I'm just using a clash now as the most obvious example. So here we have the snake. The snake clashes with the pig. Now, I know we have the pig here in the year pillar, but we're not really looking at the clash that is present within the natal chart because a clash is not something that is constant. Yeah, we don't clash every day of every year in our life. But if you, let's say, if you have a snake in the month pillar and you go through a pig year, then this eating god here is being clashed out. And so that means that you may experience an unpleasant situation or some sort of conflict, and it may involve anything or anyone, any item, or any location that is associated with this eating god, right? So most people know about the people that are associated with the eating god or the sort of activities, but now we're focusing on where this could happen as well, right? So this is how you can look at it. Now, another way to look at it is if you plot your Bazi chart and you go all the way down to the 10 profiles. So the top three, so here we have hurting officer, eating god, and friend. So the top three of the 10 profiles also give you an indication of where your affinities lie in terms of the environment. Now, you may not necessarily like to be in a particular environment. However, if you lean into it, these are the sort of environments or locations where you could really thrive, that are really useful to you, especially in your career pursuit, right? So this is how, in a nutshell, how we look at this. Now let's look at the actual 10 gods and see what they represent in terms of location or environment. So the direct wealth, and again, we look at the heavenly stem in the month pillar, but then also the hidden stem in the month pillar, because we're relating this to career and financial matters. So the direct wealth environment or location has to do with wealth. So therefore, this has to do with sort of like, this could be a bank, it could be the financial district of a city. So you could have your office in the financial district of the city rather than in one of the cheaper outskirts, for example. It can also represent the accounting department or the accounting office within a company. And then on a very small scale, ATM machines. ATM machines are also associated with direct wealth. So anything sort of like to do with money, where money is being counted, where money is being made in a very direct way. Now, then we've got indirect wealth. And indirect wealth is a little bit less direct because indirect wealth has more to do with investments. So the locations or the environments that are associated with the indirect wealth star are boardrooms or trading floors in a stock exchange, actual business centers. So it could be a business center in a city, or it could be a business center even in a hotel. It could be an investment bank, negotiation rooms. Yeah, so meeting rooms also count, where you conduct all your really, really important negotiations. Also, anything to do with currency exchanges. So even if it's just a small currency exchange office or currency exchange shop, this is also an indirect wealth location. And then there's very, very central business district. So direct wealth is a financial district overall, but then indirect wealth is the central business district of a city or a town. This is indirect wealth. Now, the direct officer, here we have, again, we're looking at either the heavenly stem in the month pillar or the hidden stem, the main T in the hidden stem. So the direct officer location-wise represents your boss's office. Yeah, the direct officer is always the boss, your direct or immediate superior. Anybody who can actually impose sort of like rules and regulations on you. And so therefore it also represents the courts of law, legal offices, legal firms specifically, or the legal department in a company, a government building or government office, and then also the headquarter of an organization or of a multinational company. Yeah, so if you're working for a rep office, then the actual headquarter, it may be located in a completely different country, but this is the direct officer location. So if you are, maybe in a particular year, you experience a clash that involves a direct officer, it could be that a bonus or a salary raise that has to be approved by head office doesn't come through, for example, right? So this is how the locations get involved here. Now, then we've got the 7 killings. And the 7 killings has to do also with rules and regulations, but in a more assertive way. So the 7 killings has more to do with competition and sort of like being very driven. So therefore, it represents for example, army bases or sort of like military training facilities or anything to do, any property or any building that is occupied by the military or by a military branch. Now, it could also represent sports stadiums or any sports ground. In a school, for example, it could be the gymnasium is a seven killings location. And then also within a city, because most of the times we don't have army bases within a city, it can also represent the red light district. So red light district also is a seven killings location. All right, then the next one we have here is direct resource. So the places associated with direct resource are schools, libraries, any building where higher learning is being done, but then also buildings or areas or um, locations where healing is being conducted. So hospitals and clinics or a doctor's office, for example. A spa could also be a direct resource location or a retreat. Yeah, so like a holistic wellness retreat or a resort, like a wellness resort. And then also old folks' homes or retirement homes or homes for people with disabilities. All of these locations are associated with direct resource. Then when it comes to indirect resource, this is still associated with wisdom, with learning, and with healing, but more on a spiritual level, and more sort of like abstract. So direct resource is very direct, as the name implies. Yeah, is a school, is a library, but when it comes to indirect resource, it's more sort of like research and development centers, for example, or meditation centers or meditation rooms. In your home, it could be the area where you do your meditation that has an indirect resource energy. Any house of worship, so any temple, any church, any mosque, any area where you worship um, yourself, your higher self, the universe, any type of God. The religion is irrelevant here. Um, any place of worship is associated with indirect resource. But then again, also cemeteries are associated with indirect resource. And when it comes to the more esoteric stuff, also haunted houses or haunted places, right? It's also a very, very indirect resource location or environment. Now, next up, we have the hurting officer. The hurting officer being the performer, sort of the performer energy. Obviously, it relates to sort of like stadiums, concert halls, theaters, cinemas, sports centers, the smaller sports centers, rather than the big stadiums. Uh, but then also recreational clubs. So anywhere where you perform a hobby, for example, right? Any place that has a stage and where people actually perform on stage. And you can also include here night spots. So areas that are, or like small places that are just open at night. Now, we mentioned earlier in the seven killings, red light district. Red light district is an entire district. But if you have sort of like an establishment that's only open at night, so let's say a nightclub is not necessarily the same as a location in a red light district. It could be just like a jazz club, for example. So that is a hurting officer location. Now, next we have the eating god. And the eating god still has the performer energy, but it's more in the background. So the eating god locations are more sort of like film sets where the actual film is being filmed, whereas hurting office and the cinema where the movie is being shown. But the eating god is the film set, the art studio, museums are very eating god. Any sort of historical building has an eating god energy. So new buildings definitely don't are not considered eating god. Um, Antique stores are also considered an eating god environment, or any sort of monument. Yeah, where you go and you look at the monument, you take pictures. That is very, very eating god energy. Then we've got the friend. The friend star is where people come together. So both friend and Rob Wealth is where people come together and sort of like gather. Uh, Friend has to do with like cafes, maybe sports clubs, maybe a golf course. You know, you go there with one or two friends, you play a few rounds of golf, you chit chat, that kind of place. A coffee bar, a sports club, maybe a darts club, karaoke bars or karaoke joints, or sort of like professional associations. Yeah, they're sort of like more smaller in scale, where people come together to perform a hobby together as a group, but it's a smaller group. Whereas then with the Rob Wealth, this is more on a bigger scale. So we're looking more at, let's say, shopping malls. Yes, you may go there with just a small group of friends, but you're surrounded by a lot of people. So that's Rob Wealth energy. So shopping malls or sports grounds again. So, you're all supporting one team, right? So there's like where you find a fan base. Um, Cafes, bars, parliament, like the government, within the government structure is also a Rob Wealth environment, because basically within the parliament you have different factions, and you come together to support a common goal within your faction. So that's why we also count that. And then recreational clubs. So these are the Rob Wealth environments. All right. So these are the locations, the environments that are represented by the 10 gods, and those can give you some indication about what sort of environment may be involved in a conflict, or if in a punishment, in a harm or whatever, but also which sort of environment you are likely to do better in terms of your career and in terms of making money. Whether you like that environment or not is a different story, yeah? So it may tell you that, yeah, you should spend more time um, learning accounting or working in an accounting office. But if numbers are not your thing, then you may still not do it, right? However, you could, if let's say direct wealth is one of the 10 gods that you should make use of to make more money, you could work as the marketing manager in an accounting office for an accounting firm, right? So then you're still, the location is there, the environment is there. You are in an accounting firm, but you may actually do a an activity that you like more than just doing the accounting itself. So that's how you need to look at this. All right. So hopefully this helped you guys with your own path analysis. Let me know what you discover in your own chart. And if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comment section below, as always. If you want to learn Bazi Astrology in a more structured way with me, you can head over to my e-learning platform, lifemasterystudies.com. The link is also in the description to the video. And there I will walk you through all the necessary steps for you to actually do a full-on analysis of a Bazi chart, not just for yourself, but also for potential clients. All right. So hopefully you like this video, in which case I hope I earned a like, and please share this video with anybody who may be interested and subscribe to my channel. All right. Thank you guys. See you soon.